Hey everyone, good morning. Just gonna wait for people to tune in. Hi, say hi when you come and jump into the live. Let me know where you're tuning in from, what city or what state or what country are you tuning in from. I'd love to know where my viewers are tuning in from. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. So in case you see me going up and down, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just going to the different screens just to make sure that I get to talk to everybody. I have a really good topic today in immigration. So, before we even begin, share this with your friends. Tell them to come in and join us. And if this is your very first time tuning in, make sure you subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Make sure you like and follow my page on Instagram, on Facebook, and the same thing on TikTok. Make sure you like my page and follow me. Okay, so let me introduce myself. If this is your very first time tuning into one of my lives, my name is Aisha Chidolue. I'm an immigration attorney in Orlando area, Florida, but I represent clients all over the United States with their family immigration matters. So your marriage-based cases, your fiance visa cases, your parents-based cases, your sibling cases. If you have a valid petition, if you need to remove conditions in your green card and things like that. Good morning, guys on TikTok. I can see all your messages, and good morning on Facebook. Remember, comment in the box and tell me where you're tuning in from. I'm in Orlando, so I want to know where everybody else is tuning in from. So as I mentioned, so even though my office is here in Lake Mary, Orlando area, Florida, I represent clients in all 50 states. So it doesn't really matter where you're located. As long as you have a family immigration matter, I would love to assist you, make your American dream a reality. And my phone number here is 407-995-6567. If you're on TikTok, it's right there in my profile. And you can also send us a message on WhatsApp. On WhatsApp, the phone number is 404-333-8751. And then for those of you on Facebook and YouTube, you can see it scrolling right there through the ticker. Okay, so today I want to talk about the dreaded notice of intent to deny. So if you don't know what this is, maybe you should count yourself lucky that you don't know what this is. But what that basically means is we call it a Noid. So it's Noid, which means a Noid, which means notice of intent to deny. This is a document that U.S. Immigration mails to a petitioner when they want to deny your case. So, I just want to talk about common pitfalls, things that couples think they're doing that might think is in their best interest, but later on comes to haunt them, how to avoid them, how to overcome, this, or just to never even be in that situation. So a lot of times when people receive Noids, as we call it, it's usually because they have either gone to a second interview that we know as a Stokes interview. And let me explain what a Stokes interview is. A Stokes interview is when you and your spouse go to an interview and they separate the two of you. Okay, so they separate the two of you, and what that means is instead of interviewing two of you at the same time, they will ask husband come in, and after husband is done, then they will ask the spouse to come in, and they do that because they want to catch you in a lie. That is the whole purpose of it. So at that time, they're dissecting every testimony, every single thing that you say. So does a Stokes interview always happen? No. However, there are certain USCIS field offices that are notorious for separating you. I'll give you an example. Boston, in Massachusetts. It's one of those offices where, you could arrive at the interview and they'll separate you. Other times it's usually your second interview. Using Orlando as an example, most of the time in Orlando, they will bring the two of you together. And then if they don't buy it, they will schedule you guys to come back for a second interview. So it really depends on where you are. But this is one of the critical reasons why preparation is key. And why is preparation key? Because you don't know whether or not, even here in Orlando, like there's no client of mine that goes to an interview without interview prep. I do not care how long you've known your husband, you've known your wife, you guys were childhood sweethearts, kindergarten sweethearts, you must go for interview prep. I'll give you an example. Next week is going to be my 11-year wedding anniversary, but I guarantee you there are many things I don't know about my spouse. For crying out loud, I don't even know what color my toothbrush is, talk less of my husband's. But you have to be prepared for that, because they are going to go into the minute details and ask you things like that. Let's see. Sorry guys, I'm like trying to navigate TikTok and Facebook at the same time. They're going to ask you things that, most people will not know the answer to. What color boxes was your husband wearing today? Right? When was the last time you guys had an argument? What color is your cabinet in the kitchen? What color, how many TVs do you have, in your house, right? So when you go to this Stokes interview, you have to be ready with the minute details. I know sometimes and I see this especially with men, and I'm not trying to attack men today, but sometimes they're just like, well, I don't need to practice. I mean, we're really married, we're going to go there. But, statistically, men have a tendency to forget things, like important things, like dates. So like a lot of times I see notice of intent to deny because the men forgot like their stepchildren's birthdays, or they forgot their names. We've even seen cases where people, forgot like how to spell their spouse's last name, especially if they have a hard last name. Sometimes it could be nerves. Sometimes maybe they're nervous. But that is why, doing an interview prep, and guys that are tuning in, welcome, come in. Once you enter, please definitely leave in a comment where you're tuning in from, what city and state are you from, and then you can also put your questions. I'm definitely going to answer all your questions. So put your questions in there, and I'll try to answer as many as I see, okay? And again, for those of you tuning in, what I'm talking about is notice of intent to denied, which is also frequently known as Noid, which is basically the dreaded letter that you get from immigration if they feel that your case is not true, it's a sham marriage. And these are very, very hard to overcome, but not impossible to overcome. So as I was saying, and sometimes, a couple might decide, what, we're going to lie about this, right? And they go ahead and go lie about that in an interview, and maybe they get approved for a green card, and then they get a conditional green card, and then 2 years later, when they ask them the same question, the answers are completely opposite because they forgot that they lied about something. And that is why honesty is the best policy. Like, USCIS knows everything, like seriously, things that you may have lied about in your B1, B2 visa, or like you came into the country with your previous spouse, and then all of a sudden you're saying, hi guys on TikTok, I can see all your messages. Thanks for tuning in. Or you then go marry somebody else, you raise red flags. You raise red flags for them to attack you. So when you receive a notice of intent to deny based on whatever your statement is, depending on how bad it is, you want to try to attack every single question or every single discrepancy that they asked. And this is why it is important. It is important to keep credible evidence of your marriage. So like, even if you go for an interview, you don't want to be like, oh, well, I've gone for an interview, I'm going to just sit down and now wait for them to make a decision. You want to continue to acquire and show that you have a legitimate marriage. Continue to live as a married couple. Because for all you know, good morning, Karisha. Yes, I am super early this morning. I actually don't usually do lives on Thursdays, but I missed the live on Wednesday, and several of you DM'd me about it. So I was like, okay, let me come on here. And, I've just been coming super early these days. So, just tune in. You might find me here on any day or so at 9 a.m. I don't know how often I'm going to be doing it, but my normal hours are Wednesdays at 11, but I'm going to try to come here early on other days sporadically. So just put a notification in your Facebook and TikTok and YouTube so that if I'm live, you'll get notified that I'm live so that you can tune in if you want to, or you can always catch the replay. Again, guys, if you're just tuning in, please share this video with your friends. Tell them to come on in. Hondo said, I woke him or her up. I'm so sorry that I woke you up, but it's bright and early. Happy sunshine. Happy Thursday. Yeah, I can see all your questions on TikTok, and I'm going to answer your questions. So guys, definitely feel free to ask your questions. So as I was saying, the ways that you avoid a notice of intent to deny are by having an airtight petition. And when I mean airtight petition, I don't mean submitting forms. Because forms, anybody can submit forms. When you submit a petition to immigration, there's strategic thinking, right? The strategic thinking that's involved. And maybe that is why you should actually be hiring an attorney. You shouldn't be doing it yourself. But you have to step into the mind of an officer who gets cases that are bogus all the time. So because they get cases that are bogus all the time, they are trained to be skeptical, meaning like they're trained to say, I don't believe this, I don't believe this, I don't believe this. Something that will be normal for a normal couple that is not dealing with immigration is not normal for couples that are dealing with immigration. Let me give you an example. Sometimes couples don't merge bank accounts. They just don't do it. Does it mean they don't have a legitimate marriage? No, it doesn't mean they don't have a legitimate marriage. It's just that when you're dealing with immigration purposes, they need to see a financial entanglement. And what do they mean by financial entanglement? They mean that they need to see that you and your spouse are so real in your marriage that you're willing to merge your finances, where if one person's finances is messed up, it can affect the other person. Right? And that is why filing those taxes together, because, if you file taxes together, you have those joint liability together as a married couple. So that is credible evidence. That is why, having bank accounts, but not just dormant bank accounts, is helpful. And what I mean by that is you can't just open a joint bank account and have like $20 in there. Here and there, you put $50. You need to put money in there. You need to use that bank account. You need to go grocery shopping. You need to pay your bills, pay your utility bills, pay your Duke Power or whatever energy, pay your rent, pay your mortgage. They need to see those things, right? So those are the things that are on paper they need to see, right? And then outside of the things on paper, they look at matters of the heart and how you are living your life. And this is where it kills people at those interviews, notice of intent to deny, and then you end up with a notice of intent to deny. When basic questions you cannot answer. If an officer asks you, what street do you live on? You should be able to answer that, because that is difficult to overcome unless you can prove that you have a learning disability or you have amnesia. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if you're saying that you and your spouse have a legitimate marriage and you live together, you should know your address. You should know your spouse's last name. If you're somebody that's horrible with spelling, or they come from a country, like, I'll give you an example. I'm Nigerian, so I can use Nigeria as an example. My maiden name is extremely difficult to pronounce. Like, you don't even want to hear it. It's super difficult to pronounce, super difficult to spell. But if you're my spouse, you better know how to spell my last name. You better know how to spell my last name, That's what you should expect from your spouse. So don't go in there saying, well, we don't need to practice. You need to practice. Look at all these people that are competing right now for Olympics, going to Tokyo, that are amazing at what they do. Do they practice? Do they not have the talent? They have the talent. But guess what they're doing? They are training and training and training every single day for that Olympics. And that's how you should look at it. You cannot take your immigration process lightly. Like, well, we're just going to show up to the interview unprepared. You must prepare. You got to think about this as this is something that's going to change your lives. I know most of you know that when you fill out, an application for a green card, it's to change your life. That's what I think. Most of the people that come to me, it's to change their lives. So if you want to change your lives, what are you willing to do, right? What are you willing to do to change your life? Prepare, prepare. So what I mean by prepare is that you need to study your spouse inside and outside. You need to know his siblings' names. You need to know his parents' names. Are they living or dead? Have you met them before? You need to know if he has nieces and nephews. Where do they live? You need to know the children, especially the stepchildren. Even if the stepchildren don't live with you guys, they consider that as something critical. Another thing is, you have somebody saying, oh, my spouse got me a present for Christmas. And then the other spouse says, no, he didn't get me a present for Christmas. You need to know what the answer is. Did you get a present or not? Don't go into the interview not knowing whether, on your birthday you got a present or not, or a Christmas present or not, right? Because those things are hard to overcome. With documents, yeah, you can gather documents and say, okay, here you go, here you go, here you go. But your testimony is the most difficult to overcome. So the only way to overcome a Noid or to prevent yourself from getting a notice of intent to deny is by preparation. A solid interview prep and studying. Take it like an exam, basically. That's the only way, guys, So that's basically it on notice of intent to deny. Somebody on TikTok says, you're so pretty. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, so let me answer some questions, guys. Don't be shy. Leave your questions in the comment box, because you guys always DM me asking questions or calling saying you just have one question. This is your opportunity to ask them. Favorite Carrier says, is it true that if you don't work on your work permit because you have a private job, they won't renew it even if you're paying your own self-tax? No, that's not true. Your work permit will be renewed as long as something entitles you to your work permit. Typically, a work permit is entitled to a type of application or petition, whether you choose to work or not, or find a job or not. Some people don't find a job. That doesn't have anything to do with whether or not. So please do not listen to people. And all this, Ray said this, or cousin John said this, or whatever. Do what Carisha is doing. Ask your attorney for the correct information, because that's inaccurate. You don't have to work on your work permit, but you still have you'll still be able to renew your work permit. Let me take some questions I saw coming in on TikTok. This person says, I'm from Sierra Leone. Please, I want to know what I should do because I want to come to America. I know everybody wants to come to America. It's funny because I grew up in Nigeria. So even though I was born in America, I moved to Nigeria when I was like 6 years old, and I moved back when I was 17. But let me tell you, during that period, every single year I wanted out. I wanted to come back to America. So I get it. Everybody wants to come to America because it is a land of dreams, a land of opportunity. You can accomplish so much more, in this country because of the freedom that it affords you. It really depends, Angela, on what your situation or your circumstances are. What I always advise people, especially if you're a young person, is to try and see if you can get into school here. You can take your SATs in your home country. I took my SATs for college when I was in Nigeria because I went straight from high school straight into college in America, right? So you can take your SATs there, or, your test of English as a foreign language if English is not the primary language in your country, and then apply to schools. If you get into a school, hi, Dimitri. Hi, Dimitri. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so if you apply to schools and you get in, the odds are that they will give you an F1 visa as long as you can show that you can pay for the school. So one of the things that you can do is, all these people here that keep sending me this go live together, I don't really know how this works, but I don't want to take away from the other people. So I'll do it this way so that if you have a question, you can put it in the box. As I was saying, so if you get into those schools, you will likely get an F1 visa as long as you can show that you can pay the school fees. So one of the things, obviously schooling in America is very expensive. So one of the things that you can do is go through the SEVIS, which is where it has all the schools that are qualified for for you to apply for an F1, look for the inexpensive schools, and apply there, because, my parents are benefactors of coming here as students. And because of them, I'm a US citizen. And because of me, they're US citizens now. You understand what I'm saying? So, you can do that, and, you can come here that way. Another way you can come here is sometimes there are programs that offer like M visas or J visas based on, like an apprenticeship. There's actually this wonderful program called Mountbatten, and they're based out in New York, New Jersey, where if you have a college degree, you can apply for, career placement in one of these programs here. And, and I know people personally who have benefited from that program, where they applied, they got in after their J1 was expired. They were able to get the H-1B, and now they're on their path to a green card. So, so just look at those kinds of situations, because otherwise, if you don't have any family member, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, if you found somebody and you fell in love with and you got married, that's obviously also an easier path. But for a lot of people, they don't have that. So that's an option. So, okay, so let's see. Cookmosu say, hey, Aisha, it's Cookmosu. How are you doing? Hi, Cookmosu. I hope you're enjoying your time vacationing in Nigeria. Your green card is here, so I will mail it to you once you get back. Let's see. So this person says, my husband works out of state for almost a year. Can it affect my permanent green card application? So, okay, the answer is that it really depends. It really depends on the reason why your husband works out of state. And I know that I've talked about this a lot, where it is not a requirement that you and your spouse live together for marriage purposes. It's a requirement to show cohabitation, even if it's short, for valid purposes, but not for marriage purposes. However, if you don't live together, you want to show a legitimate reason why you're not living together. So, okay, if your husband has been living outside, and I don't know, so I'm just creating a hypothetical, so please do not quote me on this. If, let's say, your husband was living outside the country, right, all of last year, what was the reason? Was it because of COVID? A lot of people had to pivot and make moves, like where they were laid off in their state and they had to go find jobs to support their family, right? They couldn't just relocate because they needed to know that that job was steady. So it really depends on the reason. So they don't say, oh, you can't relocate, but they want to know that the relocation was absolutely necessary. And if that relocation is happening where the person is working out of state, they still want to see an active relationship. They still want to see those text messages between the two of you. Bye, boo. Hi, boo. How are you? I love you. What's up? What's going on? Right? They still want to see that person coming back home on the weekends, or, every month, like to see his family. So, so it's not that long distance marriages will be a problem. After all, if you were consular processing, your marriage is technically long distance because your spouse is outside the country and you're inside the country. It's just that they want to see that you're still living a real marriage. Okay. Oh, good morning from St. Vincent and Grenadines. Is it Grenadines or Grenada? I'm so horrible. But good morning. That's so exotic. I know it's so pretty over there. Let me see what else we have here. Someone said, what to bring to a rock interview? What is a rock interview? I don't understand that. Can you tell me what you mean by that? Someone said, good morning, getting RFE. Oh, do you want me to talk about that? Getting an RFE is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. An RFE just means they're requesting additional evidence so that they can make a decision on your case. So a lot of times, maybe if you submitted some stuff and you forgot to submit something, thank God for President Biden's era. Before the last month, if you forgot some critical things, you could get an immediate denial, depending on the officer that was working on your case. But now they've basically asked, instead of denying these people, just request for the additional evidence. So, if you got a request for additional evidence, just try to go line by line. Like same thing with an RFE or with a Noid. I always say to clients, try to address everything that they are asking for. because if they will accept your response, that is a response for everything. So if something is lacking, it's on you. So try to, get all that and try to get it to them by the deadline. So, the good thing is that if you receive an RFE anytime from March of 2020 till September of 2021, you have an additional 60 days to respond from the date that is written in your RFE. And they're doing that because of COVID. So, hopefully that gives you enough time to do that. All right, let's see. Someone says, what's the outcome of a Stokes interview if it doesn't go well? Andrea, you know the answer to that. If a Stokes interview doesn't go well, the outcome is that you will probably be denied. And if you're denied, you've got two options. You can appeal it depending on what it is that they're denying you for, and then you have a legitimate marriage. Or sometimes, it's sometimes easier and quicker to just refile again with that same spouse. Because what you don't want is to have a Stokes interview and they deny you and specifically state that you have a sham marriage. Because if they state that you have a sham marriage or you entered your marriage to circumvent, immigration, it can become literally impossible for you to ever adjust your status. It becomes really difficult. So, with somebody else, because they'll say, well, you had the sham marriage. So you want to try to make sure that if you do get denied, that if, depending on what the terms are, you can either do a do-over by doing another application with the spouse, and this time both of you being airtight and coming prepared, or you can appeal it depending on what it is, okay? Okay, so let me take some more questions on TikTok. Someone said, does getting an RFE affect your work authorization process? So the answer is, it depends on what your RFE is for. So if you get an RFE for maybe like an I-864, which is your affidavit of financial support, yes, it can delay you getting your work permit. So you want to try and get it back to them so that they can continue with the process, with the I-864. If you get an RFE for something like, we need more evidence to show that you have a Bonafide marriage, in that case, it's not necessarily going to affect your process. It's just, give us those things, but we're still going to continue working on that. The reason why with the I-864 it affects is because, you need that to show that you qualify for the 485. And remember, the way to get a work permit when you're doing a marriage base is to show that you're eligible based on your 485. I have a meeting coming up very soon, so I'm going to jump off very soon, guys. Let me see what else I can answer real quick. Whose questions haven't I answered? Okay, so Andrea says, we did a first marriage-based interview and we were told our case is being reviewed. After 5 months, you still haven't heard anything back from the USCIS. How long will it take for you to get another interview if that's going to be the case? Well, Andrea, I actually hope you don't get another interview. If I were you, these are what you need to do. I actually posted a TikTok and Facebook yesterday, 5 ways to expedite your case. And those 5 ways are: do a service inquiry, do it online, and then ask for a level 2. If you don't get anything online, do a call and ask for a level 2 person. Call the level 2 person and specifically states that you wanted to find out what's going on with your case. It's been 5 months since you adjudicated. Prior to COVID, they used to allow us to go into the office and even do an info pass in the office, where we want to schedule an info pass to see what's going on with the case. Now they're not necessarily doing it, but you can always try. Things are changing. The other thing is, if you don't get any way or movement from that, the next thing you can do is you can then do what we call an ombudsman request. An ombudsman request is basically where they're immigration advocates that work with USCIS that advocate for decisions to be made for immigrants. So usually, they need both you and the petitioner to confirm signature, fill out the form, and then USCIS has 75 days to get back to them. If they don't get back to them, they have to do another retouch with them. But 5 months, definitely, you want to try and look at what your next step is, okay? So my wife went to most of the banks and they said that I have to have a social security before I can be on her account. Also renting a place, they said I have to have social security. So how can I do this? So there are many banks that you don't need a social security to do it, but you can also get an ITIN. So that's basically like a tax ID. Like, you can get a tax ID. You got to go through irs.gov and get a tax ID, and then you can use it that way. And people that use that to actually pay taxes when, they're working maybe under the table or whatever it is. So you certainly can do that. You certainly can rent a place. And then even if your wife is the only person renting, they can list you as a co-occupant. So they may not list you as somebody that's responsible for the rent, but they can list you as a co-occupant, so it might just depend on where it is that you guys are renting, but you can definitely do that. Several of my clients, don't have social securities, but have bank accounts and all of that stuff. So you should be fine. Dimitri says, does VAWA require congressional reauthorization to stay active within USCIS? No, it does not. Let's see. Hi, what if you applied? What if after you applied for I-130, you realize that your husband cannot sponsor you based on Adam Walsh? Would it be a problem to withdraw the application? Would that be problematic for the beneficiary? So it's not your fault that your spouse, and for those who don't know what Adam Walsh means, it basically means that your U.S. citizen spouse has a criminal record with pedophilia, something related to children. So there are very few things that U.S. citizens get in trouble for when it comes to the world of immigration, where, if you say, oh, your U.S. citizen has this criminal record or whatever it is, they don't care. They'll focus on the immigrant. However, when your spouse has an Adam Walsh, has a child-related crime, like child abuse, child molestation, pedophilia, and all those things, this is called the Adam Walsh Act. In those cases, a lot of times they could deny you, especially if you have a minor child living together, or if you guys could potentially have children. So what happens is, but it's not 100% that they will deny you, Alicia. So it depends on when he had this stuff. So sometimes they look at rehabilitation. Was this 20 years ago? Was this 15 years ago? If it was fresh, something that happened recently, yeah, it's going to be a problem. But if it was a long time ago, you can continue the process. Unless you're planning to divorce this person, I don't know, I believe in redemption, so I don't know your situation, and I can't speak for anybody. So it depends on, is this person rehabilitated? Was this person like an 18-year, like a 20-year-old that's, I don't know, slept with an 18-year-old or 17-year-old? I don't know what the situation is. But depending on if you continue with that person, you want to look at how long ago was this, and what is their propensity or their likelihood to do this. So maybe the person has changed, I don't know, but it's not you. It's not you that has a problem, it's them. So even if they deny you, it's not because of what you did, it's them. So it won't affect you from applying in the future. What affects you from applying in the future is if they deny you based on them saying that your marriage was a sham, a fraud marriage. Okay, guys, I have to go in like 2 minutes, for real. So let's see. Someone says, Patrice says, can VAWA get expedited requests? It's highly unlikely unless you can show, it's highly unlikely. You literally have to show like a medical emergency, dire straits, but it's highly unlikely. Fitzroy said, if your wife is younger than you, can she file for you? When you say younger than you, I think statistically speaking, most spouses, one person is younger than the other most of the time. So do you mean that is she significantly younger than you? How much younger than you is she? So if she is much, much younger than you, one of the things that they look at is they take it in a totality of circumstances. They look at culture. Like, what is your culture? Where are you from? Is this culturally acceptable, right? Is it culturally acceptable to for people to marry somebody this young? And the situation also applies the same way. If you are, okay, Fitzroy says she's 21 and he's 39. So they're going to look at things like, is it culturally acceptable, in the culture where they marry? What's going to happen is that you may get extra scrutiny, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you will get denied. It just means that you have to be laser sharp and laser prepared for every badgering that you're going to get. They're going to question her, depending on who is more financially adept, like whoever has more money, they're going to look at that stuff. Is anybody a gold digger? Is someone doing this for immigration purposes? They're going to ask much more questions. It's not impossible, but if you have a legitimate marriage, your job is to go there and show them you have a legitimate marriage. Celebrities marry all the time. Regular people marry all the time, and there's a 10-year difference, 20-year difference. So the goal is just to make sure you convince them that you have a legitimate marriage. But keep it in mind that for you, you're going to have a little bit more scrutiny, So you want to think about that. Okay, so Favor Carey commented and said to the person asking about bank accounts, saying that they couldn't get a bank account, that you can get an account with Bank of America without a Social Security and TD Bank. So Bank of America and TD Bank are offering you bank accounts without a Social Security. So go get your stuff, okay? Andrea said, thank you so much. You're so precise. Love listening to you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Carlene says, good morning. Stay blessed. You too. Somebody said, please respond. Did I miss your question? Guys, the way these questions go in and out. Okay, yeah. So I answered your question. Hondo, so that was for you. The answer was for you. You can go to Bank of America and TD Bank. Okay. Let's see. I feel like yeah. Okay. So Oge said yes, that COVID made him seek employment outside of state, which is a legitimate and valid reason. Last year was, an unprecedented year where things happened that shouldn't have happened. So I can see that. And then on TikTok, the guy that asked about the RFE, he said, yes, the RFE was issued for the I-864. Can you please let me know what is the minimum income requirement? So the minimum income requirement depends on how many people your spouse is claiming on her taxes. So obviously, unless I'm a calculator, I cannot give you from my head all the different families because it won't be accurate. But I can tell you that, for a family of two, meaning if she doesn't have any children and it's just you and her, it's about $21,775. If she shows that she has $21,775, that should be that should be enough. If she's on the cusp, meaning she's around there, I suggest that you also add whatever assets you have. Like, so if you guys have money in the bank account, you have money in your savings, if you guys have real estate that you can appraise for the value of that, if you have land, stocks, basically think about assets as anything that you can convert to cash in 12 months. So you can count that as part of your assets. And then if you don't have any of those things, or she doesn't meet that income requirement, then you can get a joint sponsor. Remember, if you get a joint sponsor, your joint sponsor has to be a legal permanent resident or a U.S. citizen. They cannot be a conditional green card holder. They have to be a U.S. citizen and a legal permanent resident. Guys, I've enjoyed this. I know that I wasn't able to get to everybody's questions. Maybe if I have time, I'll try and answer some of them in the comments. I literally have to jump off. I have a meeting right now. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're lucky, I will tune in tomorrow super early as well. But have a great weekend, guys. And don't forget, if you hire us for your immigration service, the sales ends on Friday, which is tomorrow. You get 10% off your new immigration matter. So if you qualify for a new immigration case, you get 10% off. You want to definitely try and take advantage of that because tomorrow is the last day to take advantage of that. All right, guys. Love y'all. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Bye.